What'd you say?
No one's waiting at this point.
Okay, I think I'm going to get started then. Good evening and welcome to the Literacy Council 2020 annual meeting. My name is Rhea Cohn and I'm the board president. I'm joined by the other board members, including Julian Schweitzer, vice president. Gabe, you just changed my screen.
Yeah, that's because I'm sharing the slide.
Benson treasurer, Mary Gallagher secretary, and the board members at large, including Dee Pinkowitz, Marty Blank, Annie Foster Ahmed, and Daniel Parra. Our three new board members will be introduced to you in a few minutes, so stay tuned. And let me just take this time publicly to acknowledge and thank the board that started last July for all their hard work this past year and their commitment to the Literacy Council. Your work makes a very big difference to our community, so thank you. So for anybody listening, if you're interested in submitting questions or comments, of course, if you signed into YouTube with Gmail, then you can use the comments section. Or if you don't have a Gmail account, you can use an email that we created for this meeting during the live stream. And that email is annual2020@lcmcmd.org. Again, that's annual2020@lcmcmd.org. And a staff member will submit your comments in real time to Gabe and the board, and we'll do our best to answer your questions near the end of the meeting. If for some reason we can't get to all the questions or comments, leave your contact information and we'll definitely get back to you after the meeting. We appreciate your interest and your participation and consideration for our use of technology tonight. We want to make this meeting safe and efficient, and your understanding is appreciated. This is new ground for us. We've never had a virtual annual meeting. So what I'd like to do first is share a few numbers with you. This is LCMC by the numbers. This is a tradition at the annual meetings. The Literacy Council was on track to serve 2,400 adult learners this year, which would have been a new high for us, and then COVID-19 hit. So as of today, we have served 1,711 learners. About 50% of those students were in our classroom program. 30% of our learners were served by our amazing volunteer tutors. And our smaller but growing programs include the GED program, the workplace program, the LC Chat program, and the new iPathways program. In terms of our volunteer base, we are so lucky to have 398 volunteer tutors, which is incredible. We have 41 office volunteers and 3 classroom assistants. So on behalf of the board and staff and our learners, to all our volunteers, thank you. Our volunteers are so important for the work that we do. So I have 4 highlights I'd like to share tonight. And the first one is to acknowledge that the LCMC staff hardly missed a beat when COVID hit and changed our world. Staff had 38 classes, 10 LC chat groups, and 40% of tutors using online learning in an incredibly short period of time. This phenomenal transition to online learning speaks to the staff's dedication to our learners and their ability to harness technology. I'd like to publicly say to Gabe and the staff that your work has always been impressive, but you rose to meet a daunting challenge. Our community is better because of your unwavering commitment to our mission, so thank you. Speaking of progress, this year, the Literacy Council has updated our mission statement, which now is that our mission is to advance social and economic equity for underserved adults through academic instruction and workforce development. This new mission statement is our North Star as we move to update our strategic priorities and focus our programs to better serve the community. Another highlight of our year happened on May LCMC hosted an all-day online conference called C2C, which stands for Classroom to Community.
Rhea, this, I don't know if other people are hearing, it's a little bit muffled.
Okay.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you.
Better?
That's perfect.
So we hosted an online conference called Classroom to Community, or C2C. And this was originally planned as an in-person conference scheduled for January, but was moved to April due to an impending snowstorm. And then, of course, had to be postponed again because of COVID-19. But without fail, the staff came through and the conference was held online. We had over 100 attendees. The keynote speaker was from the Maryland State Agency that provides us funding for the classroom program, and her support and expertise is extremely valued. Staff and invited speakers helped to provide programming throughout the day. And I'd like to give a big shout out to Ahu Moser, who was the leader of this incredible conference. I attended the conference and was so impressed by the quality of the speakers and their topic expertise. And I know that all attendees left with information they could embed right away in their teaching. And my last point I'd like to make is just that over the last few years, the Literacy Council leadership made a commitment to invest in building its own infrastructure. For example, modernizing technology databases, harnessing a new learning platform, and integrating a much needed updated curriculum. We're realizing the fruits of those investments now, and we should in years to come. We're doing a better job at assessing student progress, building a set of key performance indicators that help with strategic decisions. And most of all, we are collecting data that helps to tell the story of the incredible work being done by our teachers, our tutors, and our learners. And this information should be used to support funding requests, and it will help us build more relationships in the community that could help support the work that we do. So with that, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Julian, who's been very active with his governance group and has a lot to report. Julian?
Thanks very much, Rhea, and welcome to everybody, and thanks for joining us. Yes, we've been quite busy on thinking about the principles and strategy for LCMC going forward. This period of crisis is also, of course, sometimes a good time to be rethinking or taking another look at what we do, what our mission statement is, and what are our strategic priorities going forward at a time which is clearly very uncertain and difficult to plan for. And I think that, as Rhea has already said, I think we've shown a considerable amount of flexibility and adaptability over the last few months to get us through the first part of this very difficult period. And I'm quite sure that we're going to need all that flexibility and adaptability as we move forward. Let me start by mentioning and welcoming our three new board members who I think are all present with us this evening. And perhaps when I just mention them, they could just wave so that people know who they are. I'm very pleased to welcome Rhea Roper-Ned, who's there, who comes to us from the University of Maryland, where she is the Associate Director of the McNair Scholars Program at the university. And she specializes in recruitment and retention strategies of traditionally underserved populations. So her experience is, of course, very relevant to what we are doing. She's a leader of the Diversity and Inclusion Task Force at the university. She's been nominated as University of Maryland's representative on the University Systems of Maryland Women's Forum. And she's also the president of the Maryland Executive Council for Educational Opportunity. So a warm welcome to Rhea, and we're looking forward to getting her wisdom and experience as we move forward. Second, and I see him also here with us, Jeff Schwartz. If you can just give a wave, Jeff. Jeff is the founder and president of Ashton Manor Environmental. He established in 2002. It's a Montgomery County-based full-service environmental and commercial landscape company. He's a lifelong Montgomery County resident, and he's very passionate about giving back. And he's also very passionate about partnering with LCMC. And for his as a reward for his sins, we've now persuaded him to join us on the board. One of the good things we've been able to do with him is to help with some workforce development for his own workforce. And so a warm welcome also to Jeff, and we're very much looking forward to tapping into his corporate skills and his networking skills in the county. And last but not least, Donnell Jackson. Donnell, you're somewhere? Yep, you're there. Good. Who comes to us from a professional experience in finance and banking, and a very long career in assessing the financial viability of large, complex financial institutions. I hope he doesn't find us quite so large or complex, but we are very pleased to welcome him and to welcome his financial expertise at a time when clearly this is going to be challenging over the next couple of years to maintain our revenues, to deliver our work programs in the most cost-effective manner. So welcome also to Donnell. And I'd also like at this point to bid farewell to Mary Gallagher. Is Mary here? She is here, isn't she? Mary's there. Yes, Mary's somewhere.
I'm here, yes.
Down there. Sorry, yes, Mary. It's always difficult. Mary. Mary, who has been with us for many years and has done a wonderful job for us as the board secretary and maintaining the minutes and the records of the board and its deliberations over these number of years. We bid her a fond farewell. She's going off to finish her academic studies, and we wish her all the best with that. So that's our new board, and I'm very pleased that we are almost now up to strength, and we'll be in the beginning of the new fiscal year. So finally, let me just say that Rhea has already mentioned the mission statement. We've worked hard on this. Mission statements, once they're delivered and they're short and snappy, they're sound easy, but they really try to encapsulate what it is we're trying to do. And I just want to repeat it because I think it is important. Our mission is to advance social and economic equity for underserved adults through academic instruction and workforce development. And that represents a little bit of a movement or an evolution from our traditional work, which was more on just the English language instruction. And Gabe will talk a little bit more about that, I'm sure, when he gets to speak. We're also working on strategic priorities because not just with the new mission statement, but obviously the impact of COVID on the county, on its revenues, on the workforce, on employment is going to produce huge challenges. So we've developed, we are developing, I should say, a new set of strategic principles to go along with our strategic statement. I think, Gabe, if you could just get the titles up on the board. I can't, yeah, there we go. This is, we call this the three-legged stool, which is really that we are, our job is academic and vocational services for the underserved. And we will do this with three legs of the stool, one of which is a wraparound support network for all of our tutors, for our students, for everybody who's in our LCMC community. A second is we may slightly change the title, but it really is development, and it's development which is in the broadest sense of the word, which is ensuring that we have the funds available to deliver on our mission, that we are networked into the community, that we have partners with whom we can work and leverage our own work, and that we can advocate on behalf of our clients and the community. So that's the second leg. And the third leg is, of course, to make sure that our internal operations are consistent with all that and provide the necessary support to Gabe and his staff and all of our volunteers who work so hard and selflessly to get the job done. So that's all I really want to say at this point, and I'll be very happy to take any questions later on. Thanks. Oh, back to you, Rhea.
Okay, great. Gabe, I think you're next up.
Right. So we'll be talking a little bit about this year and into next year. It partly because of COVID and time kind of has lost meaning in some ways, but they're really blending. And I think the best way to think about both the work we've done this year and what we're going into for the next year is really to think about in two real buckets, right? One is content, one is delivery. This is kind of from the content perspective. I think we've done a really good job, and Ahu, I know, is present on the call. And she's been really helpful in helping us expand what we do, as already been mentioned on the call. So we're going from beyond just English language acquisition. We're now teaching things around GED, and then now even more workforce development. So I think where we are now and where we're going is really not so much broadening anymore as much as deepening what we're already doing. And there, I think specifically, I would call out the work around workforce development, especially as everyone knows with COVID currently, there's been a lot of news talking about the disparities that were already present for a lot of our folks. The opportunity gap is really been shown to be even more present now with COVID. And in fact, there's a whole theme going around the internet called the COVID job equity, or job equity COVID, that we've kind of really paid a lot of attention to, because the discussions are really talking about how folks on the lower side of the socioeconomic strata don't do so well, especially in this kind of setting. They're often at risk because some of their jobs put them in that way. And so there's a whole idea of, okay, how are we going to do work differently? And then obviously there's also a lot of people falling out of employment, right? A lot of service employees, they're not really being used, or they're being laid off. And that's our demographic as well. So we're really trying to spend a lot of time thinking about workforce development and deepening what we're doing, especially around job readiness, upskilling folks, getting them to think about career changes if that's where they want to go, but at least trying to connect them with whatever the job environment looks like going forward when things return to normal. So that's the content side. And usually I spend a lot of time thinking about content, but I think we're going to keep going with what we've been already doing, but that workforce side is really where we need to position ourselves. Also, partly, that's not just from a programs perspective, it's also from a financial one. If you could imagine a group like us, LCMC we are not first responders in the health and the epidemic that's going on right now, but we are definitely well positioned to help in the region with the the issues that are arising now out of the epidemic that we have, the economic issues that are going to be coming up, and then we're already seeing them, but they will keep growing. And so I think we're in a good position to do some work to really support learners to help get them ready for the opportunities that are going to hopefully be around in the coming months and year. So then if you kind of put that to the side, then the second bucket to really focus on is really, and where I think we're really going to do some expansion, is really in how we deliver that education. And so Raul is on this call as well. And Raul really helps us. Raul, are you there? You say hi? You still here with us? Might have dropped off. But Raul is helping us with, hey Raul. I just wanted to call you out because Raul is really pivotal in our work about tracking students who are trying to either move up in their current jobs or trying to get connected to work. And I think we need to spend, we have historically, right, if you know us, we have historically always done what adult ed requires, which is always start with the idea that we should take students where they are. And that usually for an adult education provider means that psychosocial side of things, right? Understanding what the students' needs are, listening to the students. They know what they need and want. They may not have the skills they need, but they know what they need. They know where they want to go. And so you really want to start with where they are. But I think over time, last year, we started taking it more literally, right? That notion, that prime directive, as it were, to take them physically where they were. So we started last year, we started doing things around focusing on working poor folks or on lower skilled jobs, but also folks who have kids in low performing schools. And the whole idea was for us to go so that we didn't need these learners to break their schedules. They're going to go pick up their kids at these schools. They're going to go to the jobs that they need to go to. And so our whole ethos for the last year was looking for ways that we could take services to them instead of just asking them to always come to us. Now that was last year, and we're going to keep doing that as well, as much as COVID allows us. But I think what COVID has really shown us is that we need to go deeper still. And through technology, through things like what we're on right now, platforms like YouTube, but also Zoom and Google Hangouts, what we're trying to do now is actually take the learning into people's homes. We don't want them to come out to us and risk themselves and their health, their family's health. We don't need to do that. We're looking for ways, and Ahu has been super helpful. Ahu, now you get your call out because she's been really helpful about understanding what the needs are and how we're going to be transitioning all our programming to online, at least for the coming, few months to the next, could even be into the next year. I think there'll be, in the end, hopefully, right, when we return to a different normal that we've got, there will be room for both, right, to have online and in person. We always want to do that in-person touch if you can. There's no doubt about that. But I think while we're all holed up, and even after we come back, there still is always those students who really can't make it to classes. They just have a hard time, or they can't make their tutoring sessions. So if we can do more and more online but still be robust and still give it a personal touch, then I think that's really going to make a difference to our learners and to the organization's growth, ability to grow. So that's really what to look out for, I think. And I'll leave it again, as everyone else said. If there's any questions, by all means, hopefully leave them in chats and we'll try to address them. Thanks.
Thank you, Gabe. That's great information. And next up is Barbara Benson. Barbara, if you could give your treasure report.
Sure. Just like it's been difficult on the content and delivery side to think about what this COVID world looks like. Certainly we were challenged when we were working on the budget. But I would describe this particular year's budget as defensive in nature. We are doing our classes, we are tutoring our students, we are running most of our programs currently, and the premise is that we will continue to deliver services one way or another. So the numbers are reflecting continued operations at a fairly substantial level, in the sense that we are not noticing a whole lot of runoff. And in fact, in some of our programs, there's been significant growth. So with that in mind, the fundamental premise of this budget is that the number of students overall will remain flat, while some programs may grow a little bit, some may shrink. And what we're trying to do is weather the storm financially, so to speak. The way we've done that in this particular budget is we're putting a tight hold on expenses and being very, very cautious on the income side. Most of those income sources that you're looking at, if you have the budget document in front of you, or if you can see this particular screen, are down slightly from last year. They're based on our current and historical experience, which obviously at this point we is our most reasonable stake in the ground, if you want to call it that. What the performance will be on some of these income items 6 months from now or a year from now, we will find out as we go along. But the premise is be cautious on the income side, be tight on the expense side. The only increase in income that we're projecting is a larger number for the tutoring and student fees. Gabe and staff kind of leveled up that item so that I think it's safe to say, although Gabe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there will be some kind of a charge for a service if you are a student. There had been some students did pay a fee, some students didn't pay a fee, and so forth and so on. And this, I call it leveling it up. Relative to expenses, of course, our largest expense is payroll. That number is actually down slightly from what we expect for this year. The other expenses are either flat or down. The objective, again, is to deliver the services as best we can, but to tightly control on the expense side. The result from this particular exercise is we are projecting net income of $61,000. The idea behind this particular structured budget is we're trying to build in some cushion. We're not sure what COVID is going to bring in the way of challenges to either side, either the expense side or the income side, but we'd like to have at least built into the plan a little bit of extra income, because we think it may be very helpful to cushioning any drop in funding levels or unusual expenses that we didn't expect when we were putting this document together. So with that, I did want to mention just very quickly, and it's been mentioned a couple of times already, that we have a significant number of volunteers. There were over 20,000 hours worth of volunteer work done for the Literacy Council. This is as of the end of April, so we've got a couple more months at roughly $25. If you were to try to cost that out, that would be $530,000 worth of value that has been contributed by our tutors, volunteers, and so forth. That's a tremendous gift, if you want to call it that, contribution, if you want to call it that, or savings of expense, if you want to think about that side of the balance sheet. So a shout out from the treasurer to that magnificent support system that we have that helps us get the work done. Thanks, and back to you, Rhea.
Thanks, Barb. Your stewardship of our finances is very much appreciated. Julian already mentioned that Mary Gallagher is going to be leaving us June 30th officially. And there's one other board member who's not with us tonight, but I would just like to mention Daniel Para will be leaving us as well at the end of this fiscal year. And Daniel's just been with us a year. His time has been short, but his perspective as the small and minority business development director for the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation has been very helpful. He's participated in finance committee discussions, and he's been a voice that we've welcomed on the board. So Daniel, if you happen to be listening, we're going to miss your contributions, and we want to extend a sincere thank you for the help that you've given us. So I think this is a good time for us to open up to any questions that have come in. We'd love to address them. Gabe, can you air traffic this?
Yeah, Barin is bringing them over. She's gonna let me know in a second. So. So we have a number of people watching, but everyone's quiet and shy, I guess. So I guess they're going to leave. I guess they're going to leave questions. Oh, one student did say that she wants to know more about the GED program. So I guess hopefully she'll be leaving a message and then we'll get back to her. Also, if anyone does, the email does exist. The annual 2020 at lcmcmd.org exists. So you can definitely send a question after tonight if you get an idea and you just couldn't think of one right now. So we'll definitely be monitoring that for a couple of days.
Great. Any other questions, or anyone from the board have anything they'd like to add? Make sure to unmute your mic if there's something you'd like to contribute.
So Marty does have a question about access to the internet among our students as we move towards technology. Ahu, are you around? You want to take that one first, and then I'll chime in.
Sure. So
anyway, so I'm just for everyone to know, this is Ahu Moser, who is our director of academic programming. So just want to
hello everyone.
Official form.
Majority of our students they are really doing well with technology and internet access, but we have been reached out by a couple of students who really needed to have a laptop and internet access. So we did create a computer loan form, and we are going to be able to help our students starting in July to loan the laptops that we have at the office. We have a total of 18, but we are planning to buy more for classroom use and for also remote testing purposes. But there is this idea that Gabe and I were looking into to help our students to be able to afford internet. So I believe that Comcast has something called Internet Essentials, no credit check, no credit application, no background check, and it is only $9 or $10 a month. So we really haven't had time to talk about it because we kind of got sidetracked by the C2C and all the online learning and more. But we will get to that during summer. We will make sure that our students do not have any issues with the internet connection and also laptops.
Yeah. Thanks, Raul. Raul is going to say goodbye. He has another engagement, so I just want to say goodbye to him. I think the only thing I'd add to that is the purchases we've made as far as technology goes, both the products we use and and how we structure the learning management system, which is an online kind of learning environment. All of it, part of what we looked for in the products we use is that they're mobile friendly. So because what we find is most of our learners, certainly not all, but I think that last survey we did, you had close to 90% of everyone had some form of phone, and most of those people had a smartphone. So they can use it. It's not the most convenient thing by any means, and certainly you want to look for other ways to supplement that. To Aku's point, we made a case to the Department of Labor when COVID was really, really starting in earnest, late February, early March. They were able to pull a little bit of money for emergency purposes, and we did make a case to them that we needed more licenses, more for the learning applications that we use, but we also needed some hardware, some investment in hardware. And so we were awarded an extra $15,000, which, is good for our size, and definitely not a lot of agencies got that extra money, but that extra boost is helping us buy more tablets. But even the cheapest tablets, which work at our products, like a Amazon Fire, costs $50 a pop. So $5,000 infusion gets you 100, right? So if you think about it, we've got 2,000 students that we've got to try to work around. Now, not everyone needs them. And so there's that. And like I said, a lot of people have their phones. So we can supplement between trying to get the people who have nothing, something, and then helping encourage and teach our learners how to use their phones and think about their phones as learning tools. And to that end, I will say that, again, Raul just left, but one of the things Raul has been doing for the last month is creating a soup to nuts basic digital literacy curriculum, so that students, if they've got a phone, can start learning how to use it for more than just maybe what they're using it socially, right? To start using it as a learning tool. So we'll be rolling that out in the summer. So it's a good question, Marty. We appreciate it. I'm glad you asked it.
Thanks very much, Gabe.
Good.
Oh, there was another question. A couple questions. Do you mind, Rhea? Should I take them?
Go ahead. Great.
Sure. One, are there any occasions where, and I'll put it out there and then we can decide who's going to talk, but are there any occasions where we can get to know the staff and board better before and after COVID? So that's something that I hadn't thought about. I don't know if anyone's got any ideas on that one.
I think that sounds great. And you know, I think we could all use that to come together and share experiences and be a group and get to know each other. So we'll put that on our radar and try to figure out a time when we can do that, hopefully before the end of the calendar year, if we're lucky.
Yeah, I think we had toyed before COVID hit. We had toyed to do something low, you know, a low bar, so an open house. It's something to admit, you know, for people who are on both sides of the county, because I know we're in Rockville. But one thing to note, it's a nice little gift that we were awarded by the Wheaton Mall. They actually gave us a space this year that they had not been able to lease in over 4 years. And basically, they gave us the keys the day before everyone went away and holed up because of the governor's call for COVID. But when we do all get back, you know, that's one space when we'd love to do something, an open house, and share that new space on Rhea and I live on this side of the county, so we're a little partial, but on the Silver Spring side of the county, the eastern side of the county. But then obviously Rockville, we have our nice office and library. So I think in both cases, we can do something that's just a nice way to just invite people. And don't worry, Barb, we won't spend too much money. I know I can feel the treasurer like saying, but not too much, don't spend too much. And then the other question that came up was, will LCMC be keeping classes online after COVID is over? The short answer is yes. We'll definitely do both when COVID is over, online and in person. But for sure, we're committed to doing more online stuff for sure. And then can you tell us more about the process coming up with the mission statement? I don't know if this, Julian, I don't know if this is a question for you, but they're wondering about the process coming up with the new mission statement.
Well, so we've sort of, we have a mission statement. The next stage, let me go back a little bit. We agreed a new strategy, and I think it was presented at the annual meeting, what, 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. You know, like all strategies, they don't age well because events catch up with them and overtake them. So we decided as a board during last year that it was time to revisit that. There are different ways of doing strategies. You can write very long documents, which people usually don't read. And so that's not probably the best way. The other is what we're trying to do now is to really develop the strategic principles. What is it, you know, if that's our mission statement, what are the priorities in the next 3 years to actually say at the end, and how at the end of that time would we be able to measure whether or not we have achieved those objectives? So that's what we're working on now. And we're going to have a discussion at the board starting very soon now on that. We've also, as part of that, and I don't know whether, Rhea, you want to just mention this a bit more, we've had a very interesting exercise done in the last year by a group of volunteers, more volunteers with a lot of corporate and management experience, who have sort of helped us think through this whole issue of what we're now calling development, which is the whole issue of fundraising and outreach, which for any non-profit is, of course, a crucial part of what we do, because if we don't have the funds, we can't do anything. So we have to be thinking all the time about how to ensure that we have the cushions needed to be able to continue our work. And that, of course, is also part of any strategy which we will be developing. So I hope we will be able to share that online, invite comments at some point, and you know, we'll be moving on it fairly quickly.
Another question came up. Should we go? Is that okay?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Please tell us a little more specific information about the new efforts, teaching of students in the workplace, on the showroom floor, at companies and schools. For example, how many students are there? What content is being taught? How many times a week? It's a long one. Have the students had time to progress in their jobs, and what has been the response of employers? So Jeff, I don't know if you're around. We can. I'm going to queue you up because Jeff Schweitzer, who's on our board, if he is available, maybe he can take the last part for sure, since he's one of the employers we work with. I will say, for the other high level answer I do give is, so the reason for it obviously is because we're trying to, as I said before, you're trying to go where the students are, and you're trying to not make them, you're trying to figure out where do they live, like literally, like, you know, and short of going to their houses, where are they spending the most of their time? So jobs obviously are one, and then the other one was the schools, right? And we were very specific about and intentional about going after certain sectors of work and certain schools in the area, and both because we felt those were in either they serve the demographic that we target, or because we felt in the case of workers that there was a lot of potential that exists among this workforce in the service industry that needs to just be upskilled. They certainly can stay in the sector they're in. We think it's great. Like Jeff is a really responsible, great employer, but how do you take his guys who are maybe entry level, and how do you then move them up to foremen or managers? And a lot of what's needed is some language skills, obviously, and then some technology skills a lot of times, as we all know, since everyone deals with a computer. So I think that's kind of the high level discussion about what we do. As far as content, you know, this is what I think is really amazing. And this is definitely, Alexandra's not on the call today, but Alexandra Villamisar is our curriculum designer. And one of the amazing things about having an in-house curriculum designer is that we literally can figure out what the space needs. So, and then kind of adjust our curriculum so it really ties into what the students in front of us really want. So we worked with a landscaping business, and they originally wanted just language, right? So then you take the ESL curriculum and you adapt it and put scenarios that kind of match what a landscaper might face in the real world. And that's what they wanted. Now they're coming back this year for second year, and they're saying, no, we want something more in depth. We want to maybe go down the, go a little deeper and do grammar maybe, and start learning more formal English. But at that point, that is what they told us they wanted. So we took the curriculum and adjusted it. We have another group, case design, where it's carpenters. So it's a different business profile, also a different level of learner. They happen to be more advanced learners in that class. So you couldn't go in with the same, it's the right tool for the right job. And because we have a curriculum designer in-house, we can take these what we have, our big curricula, and then adjust them so that they're really custom to the program. Same thing with our classes that we're doing with the MCPS Title I schools, right? There's a school, Ahu and I took the meeting last winter. You go in and, you have a school with parents, and those parents can range from people who are doctors in their own country, who just don't speak a lot of English. What do they want, right? People, but they want to get jobs here and they want to get, family sustaining work. You have, people who dropped out of school themselves who are, would be GED students. So, you go into this space and how are we going to be able to manage all these different learners? That's where the value of having all these tutors is, because in addition to the fact that we have a wide variety and a diverse variety of academic subjects we can teach, language, GED, workforce development, there's also the fact that we can then go in and use our tutors to help us to create smaller groups so that everyone's getting in a room where you've got 25 people with 25 different needs. We can still match our work to what they want. So anyway, all this to say, it can be a nightmare to put it all together, as I'm sure Ahu will say. I'm sure she's cursed me out more than one day, like, oh, I don't want to do this, but in the end, it is what the work requires if we're going to do it right. So I think it's really, really good. I think that's all I've got for that one.
Gabe.
Oh, and Jeff, yeah, so great, you're on.
Yeah,
everyone.
I'd be happy to speak to this. I think it actually came up very briefly on our awards night, and we never got to it. Let me look at it. Is this the same person that asked at the awards night? I'm just curious.
No, I don't think.
Okay. Something I heard at the awards night was, something like, isn't the employer sort of worried that they're going to take these skills and move up and improve themselves and go to somebody else? I am here to tell you this employer is not worried about that one iota. We believe that this is part of our employee retention. It's part of our culture, part of our mission. Whether we're teaching them how to dig a hole bigger, faster, better, or teaching them how to use the English language. And to the point somebody said about technology, computer skills, what have you, we're finding that's hugely important. And I will say that for us, we were bringing it to our facility and what have you. There was communications today, I know, between my people and the council, I forget who, we're going to get it to Zoom. It's an absolute win-win, 100%. My and staff, whether they're at any level, if they're a crewman, the benefit of them learning, speaking basic English at a minimum is a safety thing. At a minimum, it's a customer service thing at the very, very basic level. But also, and I think I said this that night, their commute to and from work. One of the things we encountered right off the bat on this COVID thing, these folks were scared to be in their car and be pulled over by the cops going to their essential jobs. Believe me, they want to work, they want to be essential, they want to do their job. And they're scared to death about, the not fit in, don't speak the language, all those barriers. We want our people to be at all levels of our company to be smarter, speak the language, more efficient, use computer skills. And part of my success in growing this business is I've never worried one iota about them leaving. And it's the age-old, a rising tide raises all ships. And if these folks leave, they were going to leave anyway, regardless of this or that, the other thing. And people, I can count on one hand the number of employees we've had leave my company that didn't want to leave the company. Those that are here, take the English class. It's one little part of our puzzle. And that's not going to be the reason they leave by any means. One reason could be is we do improve their skill set, their knowledge base, we make them better, and we don't have a place for them. That's shame on us. If we can't move them up the food chain and improve their position at the company, likely their compensation, then they do need to move on to another company. So I don't know who asked the question, if they're still on. If I'm answering it, I'd be happy. If we have time, I'd take a follow-up. I could go on forever, but if somebody wants to add to that, let me know.
Thanks, Jeff. That was really helpful. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Gabe, any other questions in the lineup?
I don't see them. I don't see anything coming through. But I will say a special thank you to Barin, who's been shuttling back and forth. There are 14 people watching right now, so that's a nice low number. We appreciate it. And no further questions. So thank you, Barin, for helping us out on this.
Thanks, Barin. Well, if there's no other questions or comments from the listeners or the board or staff, then I think we can adjourn the meeting. So one last check. Just anybody else want to say anything? Okay.
Special thank you once more to Ahu, who's also on the call. Sorry, I have to keep making sure I'm thanking everyone who's especially on the call. They've been fantastic. The staff is really amazing. So everyone, the board knows it. But
very amazing. So thank you, everybody. It's been a great year, and we look forward to a wonderful fiscal year 21. So everybody can have time to catch their breath, and then we'll go at it again, right? All righty. Good. Thanks. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Bye.